Hi, this is Jason Stratton and my partner
Sophia Klopas.
And we are the KlopasStratton team of Berkshire Hathaway. And we are gonna get into why you should have a buyer's agent and not make the mistake that we normally see when we see people that buy houses on their own.
I consistently am getting phone calls of buyers directly contacting me and wanting to deal directly with the listing agent. And it always just baffles my mind.
Absolutely.
Why somebody wouldn't want to have their own representation. There's just so many advantages to having a buyer's broker. And getting down to the nitty-gritty, what do you think is the most important reason?
I think the most important reason to have a buyer's broker is having somebody advocating solely on your behalf. So when a buyer contacts a listing agent directly, that listing agent's number one priority is to sell that house at the highest price possible. As a buyer, you probably want the lowest price possible. The only way that can really happen is by somebody advocating on your behalf, and that's what a buyer's broker does versus a listing broker. So that's one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to that, because a buyer's broker is going to be doing the research on the comparables, the area, and what you should be paying for that home.
And a buyer's broker has a different duty altogether. The seller's broker, the listing broker, is trying to not spin, but show the house all of the positive attributes. The buyer's broker comes in and really deep dives into the intricacies of properties and of comps that maybe a buyer won't know. I mean, hiring a buyer's broker who's very familiar with the inventory and can go in and say, sure, they both had the same square footage, but this one, the alley, abutted Halsted or abutted Damon versus being on the opposite side of the street. You're not having all of the food alleys. So it's that deep dive into comps that a broker who represents a buyer will look and will say, hey, listen, this is a big difference having those sorts of attributes, or having an all brick house versus just a brick front with a block background. And those sort of things, I think, is what, not that buyers aren't educated, but that's not their job. This is your broker's job, is what we do for a living full time. And so we have a lot more experience with that.
Piggybacking on that too, to finish off that point, is there's a ton of times where we get phone calls or people we're talking to buyers and they're like, well, what about this house and this house and this house as comps? And I tell you right now, Sophia and I can tell that buyer, well, you know what? We've been in all those homes and I can tell you the difference between that home and this home. And having as much experience as we have and as much volume that we do, being so hyper local and being in the Chicago market and seeing these homes, it's an advantage that we have, that no matter how educated a buyer thinks they are, they have not been in those homes like we have.